The rain fell silently but heavily, as if the city groaned under its weight. The Union Station platform drowned in reflections from sparse lamps, each flickering like a candle at a wake. James Malloy stood at the edge, a cigarette trembling between his lips, not from wind, but from a hand that had betrayed its oath 10 years ago. He wasn't hiding. There was no point. He'd already been erased, from newspapers, from his badge, from the memory of those who'd lived. He was a former. That's what they called him. No title, no family, no right to be heard. On his collar, a thin line of blood, dried since yesterday. He didn't notice, just like everything else. Footsteps behind him, a dog barking down the tracks, a cough. They all passed him by. The whole city was a blur now. In his pocket, a key to a room above a defunct print shop where the air smelled of mildew and sour gin. That's where he drank. That's where he forgot, or pretended to. The train to St. Louis had left 5 minutes ago. He could have boarded. He didn't. Through the wall of the ticket hall, muffled jazz seeped tired, like a heart after the truth. The notes trembled along the floor as if someone were dancing just beyond the edge of sleep. He stood and smoked. Smoked and thought how rain was the only thing that still came back to him. She arrived without a sound, like something dredged from memory you thought you'd drown. He felt her before he saw her, the hush that fell behind him, the breath paused mid-rhythm in the saxophone crawling through the bricks. James turned slow, as if speeding up would make it worse. She was standing just beyond the reach of the overhead lamp, rain tracing lines down her cheekbones. The same red hair, wet and flat now. The same mouth thin, firm, uninvited. Lydia Kelly. Ghost from a room that no longer existed, from a name he hadn't said aloud in 6 years. James, she said. No question, no doubt. He said nothing. Just dropped his cigarette, crushed it with the heel of a scuffed shoe. You don't look surprised. I'm not. You look worse. I am. She stepped forward, the light catching her just enough. Her coat hung off her shoulders, soaking. In her hand, something small, square, wrapped in wax paper. It wasn't a weapon, not the kind that bled on contact. She handed it to him. He hesitated, then took it. It was a photograph, black and white. A boy, maybe 6, eyes too large, lips tight, determined, collar buttoned too high, as if someone wanted to strangle the past with Sunday fabric. That's not my son, she said. He didn't respond. I swear to God, James, that's not my boy. He looked at the photograph longer. The edges were worn, the ink faded, but the eyes. He looks like... Don't say it. I wasn't going to. She pulled a crumpled envelope from her coat, held it like it weighed more than it should. This came 2 nights ago, no return, no postage stamp, just left at my door. She opened it. Inside, one sentence typed, not written. He remembers everything you buried. James read it 3 times. The words never changed. They never did. Lydia took a breath, looked away. A car hissed past the curb, its tires whispering something oily and old. Somewhere in the station, a door slammed. The jazz stopped. I buried him, James. I remember the cold, the priest, the goddamn lilies. Her voice cracked not from tears, from effort. I've lived in shadows since. Now people say I'm mad. She turned to him. Am I? James looked at the photo again. The boy was real, and he had his eyes. They sat in the booth at Lucille's, back of the house. Red leather cracked under their weight. A bulb above them flickered like it couldn't make up its mind. The waitress didn't ask questions. She saw the look, read the silence, poured the bourbon. Lydia sipped hers like she didn't care if it burned. James stared at his like it might whisper a truth if he waited long enough. I went to the police, or she said. They sent a doctor. He asked about my dreams, about grief, about trauma. And he didn't look at the boy, not once. James nodded, not at her, at the pattern. She reached into her coat again, produced another photo. This time, it was older, creased in the corners, sun-faded. Her boy, the real one. the one James remembered standing too close to the tracks, throwing pebbles at ghosts. "Do they look the same to you?" she asked. James didn't answer. "They buried Thomas in Woodlawn. I put him there myself. That grave is full." James lit a cigarette. The smoke curled like a whisper trying to change its mind. "Where's the other one now?" he asked. "In the old hotel on 5th, the one the union boys used during the strike. Room 3B. He says it's temporary." "He alone?" "Always." James stubbed the cigarette into the ashtray, watched the ember die slow. "I don't need help," she said. "I know. I need truth." He stood. The photo remained on the table, face down. She didn't touch it. Outside, the rain had stopped, but the air still felt like a wound not yet scabbed. The city breathed shallow now, lights flickering like nervous eyes. He could leave. He should. But he didn't. The Grand Orleans hadn't been grand in years. Mold crawled up its wallpaper. The floor creaked like it resented every step. A sign at the desk read, "No questions, no refunds." James took the stairs. The elevator wheezed in protest and stayed still. At the third-floor landing, the hallway stretched dim and yellowed, like nicotine dreams. Room 3B. He knocked. Silence. He knocked again. Footsteps. Slow. Then a latch clicked. The door cracked open. A boy stood behind it. James froze. The eyes were wrong, but the stare wasn't. The boy smiled. "You're late," he said. James didn't speak. "Mother said you might come," the boy added. "Said you'd want to know." "To know what?" The boy opened the door wider. The room was empty, bare walls. One chair, no bed. "I remember," he said. "You, her, him." James stepped inside. The door clicked shut behind him. The room smelled of bleach and something older like paper left in rain, dried and forgotten. No bed, no belongings. Just that wooden chair near the window, dustless, too deliberate. The boy stood in the middle of the room, arms at his sides, barefoot on the warped floorboards. James didn't move. "You don't remember me," the boy said, almost amused. "I don't. But you will." The voice didn't match the body. It wasn't childish. It wasn't even wrong. It was worse. Flat, like someone reciting something learned but never lived. James stepped closer, studying the boy. Same narrow shoulders, same ears. Even the crooked line of the jaw familiar, like a scar you forgot was yours. But the eyes, too old, too still. "You know what they're saying?" the boy asked. James didn't answer. "They say my mother's crazy, that I'm some orphan or a mistake." He tilted his head. "Or something worse." "What are you?" The boy smiled, not kindly. "I'm what you left behind." James looked around the room. No suitcase, no cup, no scent of use. The light bulb above them buzzed faintly, too steady. "You're not supposed to exist," he said. The boy nodded. "That's what makes it interesting." He turned toward the window and James noticed for the first time no reflection. The glass was cracked, smeared with rain residue, but no shadow moved with him. Just the city outside, pulsing faint with streetlight veins. "I saw your grave," James said quietly. "You saw a box," the boy replied. James's throat tightened. "There was a funeral, a body, I carried it." The boy didn't turn. "You carried guilt, you buried silence. I was already gone." Silence stretched. The room closed in. James took a slow step back toward the door. "I don't know what game this is." "It's not a game," the boy said. "It's memory." "Then you're not real." The boy looked at him now. The face held something close to pity. "Everything real begins in the mind," he said. "Even blood." James's breath caught. The back of his neck itched, an old signal, danger or madness. He didn't know which. "You want proof?" the boy asked. "No." But the boy was already reaching into his coat's small, dark wool producing something from the inner lining. A folded note, brittle at the seams. James took it without thinking, unfolded it. It was a photograph, the same one Lydia had shown him, only older. Faded, creased differently. On the back in ink he recognized as his own. "Forgive me." His knees nearly buckled. You wrote that, the boy said. I never... You did, just not yet. The room buzzed louder. The bulb flickered once. James moved toward the door. His hand found the knob. Cold, wet, but the lock was gone. Just a hole in the wood, splintered around the edge. You think this is the beginning? The boy said behind him. It's not. James turned. The room was empty. No chair. No boy. Only the photograph in his hand. Damp now, edges curling like old leaves. He opened the door. The hallway was gone. Only darkness where it should have been. He stepped forward anyway. Outside, the city had shifted. The street lamps flickered like dying thoughts. Jazz bled from an alleyway with no club. The pavement underfoot felt soft, like something breathing. He walked fast. Fast enough to forget, not enough to outrun. At a payphone near Roosevelt and 10th, he dialed Lydia's number. 3 rings, then 4. Hello? Her voice sounded thinner. He's not there, James said. Silence. Where are you? She asked. I don't know. James. He knew my handwriting. From a letter I haven't written. He said I buried the wrong thing. A pause, then, he's outside my window. James stopped breathing. Don't move, he said. He's smiling, she whispered. He heard the crack of glass then, not shattering, bending, as if something was pressing in from the outside. Lydia! The line went dead. He dropped the receiver, ran, past a man selling newspapers in the rain, past a woman humming something tuneless with a face like wax. Up the stairs to her building, 3rd floor, apartment 3C. The door was open. Inside, only the smell of dust and lilac soap, a coat on the hook, the kettle still hissing on the stove, but no Lydia. And on the table, a mirror cracked down the middle. On its surface, in smeared ash, the shape of a child's handprint. He sat on her sofa for hours. The room didn't change. It waited. In his hand, the photo creased now where his fingers refused to let go. A whisper in his head repeated the words, "He remembers everything you buried." He closed his eyes and saw the grave. The way the soil sank wrong, the way no priest said a word, the way no one else cried. He had buried something, but not a son. He rose, walked to the mirror, touched the glass, cold, but it pulsed. He whispered, "I'm sorry," and the glass held its breath. He didn't sleep, not really. Just sat in the dark of Lydia's apartment, watching shadows stitch and unstitch themselves on the walls. Somewhere between 3 and 4 a.m., he lit a cigarette and didn't taste it. His collar was still damp, and the ashtray looked like confession. By dawn, the mirror hadn't moved. The handprint remained a child's or something pretending. James left the apartment as the city yawned into morning. The rain had stopped, but its breath lingered in puddles and wet bricks. On the corner, a milk truck rattled past with no driver visible. Back in his room above the print shop, he found the envelope. The same one Lydia had handed him at the station. He was sure he'd left it at the bar. But there it lay, on his table, unopened, as if waiting. He slid it open with his thumbnail. Inside, a single strip of newsprint. Orphan boy found in abandoned church, claims to know details of old police scandal. No date, no source. Just a headline and half a paragraph. The boy, roughly 6, was discovered inside St. Dunstan's on South Halstead, alone and silent for hours. According to sources close to the investigation, he recited names and dates connected to the 1919 vice raid, known internally as the Mercy File, a black book said to contain police complicity in bootlegging rings, unsolved killings, and witness disappearances. James felt his chest tighten. Mercy File. That was his last case. The one that ended him. The one that made Lydia vanish. The one they swore had been destroyed. He lit another cigarette, hands shaking. The boy knew. Or someone did. He walked west into the heart of where the city didn't want to be. Past boarded storefronts and silent juke joints. Past the last whispers of jazz and into the old archive building off Polk. It had been condemned twice. It was still standing. The doorman was gone. The front desk stripped. But the back James knew the way. Down a hall of peeling linoleum, behind a locked steel gate rusted like dried blood. He jimmied it with a knife. Old habits, sharp still. The mercy file had never been filed properly, never logged. They'd pretended it didn't exist, but James had tucked it in a ledger behind a false spine marked Sanitation Complaints 1915-1921. The ledger was gone. In its place, a single page. Typed, not yellowed, fresh. You can't burn what remembers you. He stared at the words, and for the first time in years, he felt something close to fear. Not of being caught, not even of dying, of being known. He left the building, took the L train south, watched the city pass like a waking fever. He got off 2 stops too early, walked the rest, needed to feel ground. Rain had soaked the soil near Woodlawn. Graves leaned like tired men. He stopped at the Hartley plot, Lydia's family. Their boy was buried there, or so he'd believed. He found the stone, clean, flowers fresh. Who had left them? The earth looked undisturbed, but James knew better. He dropped to one knee, brushed his hand over the grass. Soft, too soft. He dug, only a few inches. Then his fingers struck wood, not a coffin, a box. He pried it free, small, meant for keepsakes. Inside, a toy train, a coin, a folded note, his own handwriting again. He didn't die. You did. He returned to her apartment. The door was closed again. He knocked. No answer. He opened it. Inside, quiet. The air was colder now, and the mirror gone. In its place, a suitcase. Open. Clothes half packed. Her shoes aligned at the door. On the table, another photograph. The boy, standing outside a church, St. Dunstan's. Back turned, waiting. James didn't question it anymore. He walked. The church had been empty since Prohibition agents torched its cellar during a raid. A decade of ash clung to the stained glass. Its steeple leaned east, like it was tired of pointing to heaven. He stepped through the front doors. Dust bloomed in silence. At the altar, a single candle burned. The boy stood beside it. No sound, no movement. James walked the aisle. Each step echoed wrong, like the building remembered footsteps it hated. You came, the boy said. James nodded, his voice gone. You buried me to save them. The words dropped like stone. James nodded again. The boy turned finally, his face not angry, just hollow. I was never yours to kill, he said. James's knees buckled. He dropped to the floor. Then who were you? He asked. The boy knelt beside him. I was the truth. James looked up, eyes blurred. His chest hurt like drowning. You came back. The boy tilted his head. No, you did. And then he was gone. The candle snuffed. The church empty. Only James remained, breathing, weeping, alive. Weeks passed. He never found Lydia, never saw the boy again. But each morning under his door, a strip of paper, one word typed. Remember. Some days it felt like a curse. Other days like air. He stopped drinking, started writing. A ledger, this time real. Names, faces, dates, everything buried, everything lost. He'd never be forgiven, but some things didn't want forgiveness. They wanted light. The city kept breathing, even when no one asked it to. Trolleys still groaned across rusted tracks. Cafes still opened before sunrise. And jazz still spilled through floorboards like memory made sound. Life continued, but James Malloy no longer walked with it. He walked beside it like someone who had come back wrong from something no one else had seen. The notebook was half full now, plain brown cover, pages worn at the edges. He kept it under his coat near the ribs where the bullet had missed by less than truth. Inside, names of men long thought clean, locations of graves no one visited, descriptions of crimes that never made the papers. And the boy, always the boy. His name remained blank, but his face lingered like a scar behind the eyes. Each day, James wrote. Each night, the slip appeared beneath the door. Remember, sometimes it was typed, sometimes scrawled, once carved into matchbook cardboard. He never saw who left them. He never tried to stop it. It was too late for noise in this part of town. But the knock came anyway. 3 times firm. He sat in the dark, waiting, breath shallow. Then he rose, opened the door. Lydia stood in the hall, her coat too thin for the season, her eyes hollowed by whatever distance she'd traveled to return. "I found him," she said. James didn't ask how. She stepped in, didn't take off the coat. "He's not a ghost," she said. "He's not dead. He's not mine, but he's not. Gone." James nodded. "Where?" "He's waiting." "Why?" "To be known." The fire cracked in the grate, the only sound. Lydia looked at the table, saw the ledger, the folded slips of paper beside it. "You kept them." "They keep me." She walked to the window. Rain had started again, soft. It made the glass twitch. "He said your name once," she said, "when he thought I couldn't hear." James lit a cigarette, didn't inhale. "What name?" She turned. "Father." "Shri." It hit harder than confession, harder than guilt. He didn't flinch, but something behind his eyes broke cleanly. They returned to St. Dunstan's. The church stood unchanged. Inside, the candle burned again. This time, James didn't approach. He stood in the doorway, watching. The boy sat on the edge of the altar step, knees pulled to chest, eyes on the flame. He didn't look up, but he spoke. "You brought her." James nodded, unsure who moved first. Lydia stepped closer. She didn't speak. The boy finally looked up. "Do you know why I'm still here?" Neither of them answered. He smiled, not cruelly, just tired. "Because no one ever listened to the silence." James's throat tightened. The boy reached behind him, lifted something wrapped in cloth, held it out. James stepped forward, took it, unwrapped it. The mercy file. Real this time. Complete. He flipped through it, his own handwriting, notes he hadn't penned yet. Names redacted, others not. And in the back, a photograph. Black and white. The boy and him, together. He staggered. "You were there," James whispered. "I still am," the boy said. Then he vanished. Not like smoke, but like someone closing a door from the other side. They burned the file that night, not to erase, but to mark the end. Page by page, James fed it to the flame in the church's hearth. Lydia watching, saying nothing. When it was done, the ashes formed no shape, but the air felt lighter, like something had been paid. The next morning, James walked to the river. The city moved around him again, distant but clearer now. Children laughed behind fences. Radios hummed half-tunes from kitchen windows. At the dock, he lit one last cigarette, tossed the notebook into the water, watched it drift until it sank. A ledger has weight. Even memory sinks. He turned, walked back into the fog. Weeks later, a mirror appeared on his desk. No note, no sender, just glass, untouched. He set it upright, sat in front of it, waited. His face stared back, older, thinner, eyes marked, and behind him, nothing. No boy, no shadow, just the silence. That night he didn't drink, he didn't write. He watched himself until the candle died, and when morning came, he was still there, changed, but still there.